Hello and welcome to this episode of the ESG Fitness Podcast. I'm doing in a slightly different format. Today's episode, I'm going to share a coaching tool that we use on Commit to Six that we've been developing a little bit. Some of the principles we've already been using, but this is a more like streamlined coaching tool that we're going to be implementing. We've been working on this for the past, I guess you could say a couple of years, but also significantly more focused a couple of weeks. So going to share this new coaching tool. It's built on the principles that we've been using on Commit to Six and on the ethos of being driven by results and no bullshit evidence-based coaching. So I'm going to show you exactly where to be focusing your efforts and also how to commit to them long term so that you actually get results. And you actually get results that last. You're not just yo-yo dieting for the rest of your life, which is exactly what we built Commit to Six for. So you're not stuck in that yo-yo dieting cycle. So one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about this is that so many women are left overwhelmed and confused about messaging on social media, which is exactly why I do the science versus bullshit episodes every single week. There is a lot of absolute bullshit dressed up as science, and sometimes it can be quite hard to see through. And I came across this example last week and I was like, it did actually blow my mind a little bit, like kind of the imagination behind it as well, right? So I want to read out an example of this. Let me find it. I was sent this as a reel, and it was essentially a woman explaining how she helped this client. And honestly, it was the most complicated process, like insanely complicated process that I've ever heard. And they've done this on purpose, right? Because obviously, if it's wildly overcomplicated, then you're going to need my help or their help or someone's help in order to do this because it's way over your head, right? It makes enough sense that you're like, oh, like that sounds like plausibly what I should be doing, but I don't really understand it enough. And it is honestly one of the worst pieces of misinformation that I've ever seen. And that is saying a hell of a lot. So the claim was that this woman who was struggling with fat loss, the reason that broadly women in this position are struggling with fat loss is because their bodies are inflamed and they need to avoid protein and the gym first to reduce the inflammation, because apparently they are inflamed and stuck in a quote unquote sugar burning state. They are metabolically inflexible and they're running on, and I quote, broken cellular pathways. You would be dead if that was the case, but we'll continue. They're also apparently unable to repair mitochondria. Again, you would also be dead, but we'll continue with that. And they are trapped in a quote unquote weight loss resistance driven immune system inflamed state. And the solution is a very, very specific order of operations, right? So first of all, you must quote unquote calm the body down. This suppresses inflammation so that your metabolism starts responding. And then you need to fix your gut microbiome, which, you know, just between you and I, was not actually broken anyway, but let's go with that. Then you have to train the body to be more metabolically flexible so that it can escape this sugar burning state. And finally, after that, you can access fat because your nervous system will now be relaxed enough that it can release fat, because at one point it was too inflamed, too stressed to actually be able to release fat. And that's what was keeping your fat trapped, not the fact you weren't in a calorie deficit. And apparently, one of the ways to do this is to very specifically use fruit juice. Lord knows why, because I'm assuming if you're suddenly stuck in this sugar burning state, then drinking something which is primarily sugar probably isn't going to help. But you have this fruit juice protocol, and then you reset your immune system, because as far as this woman knows, that's what's driving inflammation, and then therefore fat loss resistance, and that's what's stopping you. And then after that, you can start to deal with your mitochondrial dysfunction from the genetic mutations that she says that these people are having, right? Because that's what's slowing down your metabolism. And no joke, this goes further. In order to do this, you need to use fasting, low protein ketogenic diets, large carb refeeds to boost leptin, insulin cycling, and some kind of cellular cleanup process. And once all this has happened, then your body can finally let go of fat. And that's when you can start to actually train properly, build muscle, increase your protein again. And then you're finally allowed to go back to the gym. Because apparently if you increase your protein too early, then the body is still inflamed and it's still resistant, and it will apparently cause even more weight loss resistance. And that's why, despite you doing all the right things, you're not getting results. So the takeaway is that if you feel like you're doing everything right, but nothing is working, it's probably because your metabolism, immune system, gut microbiome, mitochondria, and your genetic pathways all need to be repaired in the correct sequence first. Like, you can see how unbelievably complicated this is. I was even like, what are you even talking about? And then obviously that selling that expert guidance on this, like, oh, if you feel like this, let me help you with this. And there was some transformation photo behind them of this woman looking, having slightly more body fat, and now she has slightly less body fat, and it was via this protocol. And in reality, all this woman all this woman has done was improve this person's diet and help them lose fat in honestly the most fucking complicated way that you've ever heard. And this is why people feel so overwhelmed. Like, she has massively overcomplicated this, and it leaves women feeling confused on purpose. And then you're convinced that you need their really complex protocol, and that's the secret that you've been missing. And it's not. It's yet another marketing con. By losing fat in a balanced and very simple way that I'm about to talk you through, your inflammation will reduce. You, especially if that inflammation, which for most people, if you genuinely have chronic inflammation, it's usually caused by excess body fat. When your fat cells are too full, they start to stretch, they start to release cytokines and other markers of inflammation. And that's actually what's causing the inflammation. So even with these kind of like anti-inflammatory diets that are often pushed, actually seem to be quite popular at the moment, like, they are anti-inflammatory, but they're anti-inflammatory because any successful fat loss diet is anti-inflammatory if you're overweight and you lose fat. It's not the specific protocol that somebody is using. And then, like, your gut health will improve if you generally improve your diet. You will become more insulin sensitive if you lose excess body fat and you are more active and you walk more and you start going to the gym. You definitely don't need to be making this so wildly overcomplicated. Losing fat is already hard enough, but it doesn't also need to be complicated. And I used to work in diabetes and cardiovascular disease, and I worked in research for years. Like, I understand the nuances here, right? I understand the complexities. I had the opportunity to learn from some of the like world renowned experts in this field. I had been to conferences and lectures by these people, and the way that influencers and unqualified online coaches will jump at the tiniest like misunderstanding of things like insulin and inflammation and create a story and a narrative like behind it to sell you something is absolutely mad. I was vaguely impressed by the level of imagination that this person had. Like, I genuinely thought it was a joke initially. Like, I thought this is like a parody account, and then I was like, oh no, it's actually serious. And there are people commenting underneath, being like, oh, can you help me? Can I have your free resource? Posting the keyword and stuff. I'm like, this is just so unbelievably unhelpful for people. And the reason I talk about my background is I understand the complexities of the human body. And guess what? For fat loss, for feeling better, for improving your health, these simple things work. And then your body is so incredible that it does the rest for you, right? Like, you actually don't really need to worry about insulin sensitivity, because when you start exercising more and losing body fat, your body like becomes more insulin sensitive. You don't need to be specifically having that goal. Like, living a healthy lifestyle will do that for you. It will reduce inflammation as well. And you don't need to make fat loss more complicated and thus harder than it already is. You just need to know where to focus your efforts, because that's going to remove the overwhelm. And this is why I'm so passionate about no bullshit, evidence-based, like results-driven coaching. And this is what leads me on to the tool that I want to talk to you about today. So The reason that most people don't get results is usually because they're overcomplicating things, which is very unsurprising given everything that I just spoke about, right? But what I want to do today is simplify things and help you focus on where you're actually going to get results so that you are free to live your life and actually enjoy your life while you're also working towards your goals. And then you will finish each day knowing that you've ticked off the boxes, knowing that you've done the basics, going to bed feeling satisfied that you know that at the end of today, I am closer to my goal than when I started. And I call this process over outcome thinking. And when you do this, you have this kind of sense of calm because you feel like you know for sure you are working towards your goals without having to overthink it and question everything that you're doing, and without it taking over your life, and without feeling like you're missing out on some like ridiculous protocol that you should be doing. And by the way, like a low carb um or what was it? It was a ketogenic, low protein diet followed by high carb refeeds to boost leptin is one, so unbelievably stupid and makes no sense. And two, a recipe for long-term disordered eating patterns and just making you feel like you would never be able to stick to something that was actually maintainable for you. So rather than any of that, I want to help you focus on the behaviors and targets that will actually get you results without overwhelm. Your diet and exercise plan isn't meant to completely take over your life, right? It is meant to help you enjoy your life more. If you are doing a diet and exercise plan that makes your life worse, you're doing it wrong. Like the whole point is this makes your life better, not worse. So the process of process over outcome thinking, the concept is quite simple, but it's a bit of a secret weapon. So when you embrace this mindset, you become, not to be too choosy, but like kind of unstoppable. And I mean this with like any goal. It's not necessarily just fat loss. You can apply this to any outcome goal that you want. But you're no longer relying on motivation from external stimulus. And you'll see what I mean by this. But instead, you're focusing on the actions that you can control. And then the outcome will take care of itself. And this is where most people go wrong. So the aim of this framework is to shift from outcome-based thinking to process-based thinking. And then you don't need as much patience because impatience generally comes from focusing so much on results and the results that you can't actually directly control, instead of thinking about the actions that you can control and that you do have. Wish I had a better word for control, another word for control. Anyway, that you do have control over. And you'll find that you're a lot calmer and more focused, which is a lovely feeling, by the way, when you're working towards your goals, when you commit to the process and then you just let the outcome take care of itself. So the first step, and there are 6 steps to this, the first step is to separate the actions from the outcomes, right? So the outcomes are what you want. Let's use a classic example, weight loss. The outcome is I want to lose weight. The actions that you can control might be things like your steps, your workouts, your calories, your sleep, your food choices. Your actions are what drive the outcomes. And the mistake that most people make is judging themselves on the outcomes that they can't control instead of the actions that they can control. And this is the biggest killer of motivation and consistency, because you can do everything perfectly for a week and the scale still might not move. And if you're focused on the outcome, then you're going to be pretty demotivated by that. And that's why most people give up. Whereas if you focus on the actions that you know will lead to a successful week, and that's how you define a successful week, is have I hit these actions? And side note, you also need to make sure that you are putting your efforts in the right place. And I'm going to come on to talk about this, but it needs to be the right actions that are actually driving you towards your goal. Then if you're doing that, you can be absolutely sure that over time you are going to get closer to that goal. And you can be doubly absolutely sure that if you commit to the range targets that we individually set you on Commit to 6 based on your goals and your life, then you will get results. Like that is the beauty of range targets. And it takes away so much stress and overwhelm because you're like, wow, I have these realistic targets. It's a range, so I know I can stick to it. I have what I can do on my worst day, which I know is still going to push me forward, and then the optimal that I'm striving for. And I just know that over time, if I stick within these, I can live my life. And as I live my life, I will be getting closer towards my goal. Then you don't need half as much patience. So that's the first step, is to separate the actions from the outcomes, and your focus is going to be on the actions. Step 2 is to use range targets to define a successful week. So instead of asking, did I lose weight this week? You ask yourself, did I stick to my range targets that Emma has lovingly set me? Can I reasonably expect to move closer to my goals this week based on the actions that I've taken? This is a really powerful question, and I ask myself it a lot, right? Can I reasonably expect to move closer to my goals based on the actions that I've taken? Like, that's a great way to create ownership for yourself, ownership over your results, and ownership often over your lack of results, both of which are important. So example range targets might be that you're like, my range targets are 2 to 4 workouts a week, 8 to 12,000 steps on average a week, maybe 80 to 100 grams of protein, whatever your calorie target might be based on what your goals are. I want to get at least 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. For me at the moment, I also have a writing goal. So I'm like, I want to write at least 1 hour a day, but the goal would be 2 hours a day, right? So then you've got these like targets. This is what I want to achieve this week. This is what's realistic for me. And then you're basing your week on, did you hit these targets? So if I hit these targets, no matter what the scale says, or no matter what my outcome says, like, it has been a successful week. You will still be losing fat, even if you don't get the immediate feedback from that. And if you're always looking for immediate feedback, you're never going to get results. And that's like a bit of a reality check, because I speak to a lot of people who are like, I'm just the kind of person who needs like immediate feedback. Like, I need to see the scale go down. And I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love, but if you're telling yourself that, you're also telling yourself, I'm the kind of person who will never get long-term results, because the scales won't go down every single week. If you ever want to achieve some kind of big, impressive, ambitious goal, you will never get immediate feedback from that, right? Actually, unfortunately, the things worth having generally take a lot of effort before you actually get the result. So I'd highly recommend to stop telling yourself that you're the quote unquote kind of person that needs some kind of immediate feedback. The third step is to align your expectations with reality. So sometimes you need to call yourself out and work harder. People often expect results faster than either the process allows or than what is realistic based on the effort that they are putting in, right? So a classic example of this is some people expect to lose, I don't know, a stone in 6 weeks. It might be achievable for some people, depending on how much fat they have to lose initially, but it might not be realistic for others, because generally, and then again, this is like you won't see this every single week, but on average, people can probably lose about 0.5 to 1% of their body weight a week is a pretty like standard rate of weight loss. So also note within that, some weeks fat loss will be masked on the scales by water retention for various reasons. If your expectations are unrealistic and you're always looking for that immediate reward, then your motivation is going to drop, right? It is important to have realistic expectations, not to lower your ambition, because fuck that. I am all about big, audacious goals, but to align your efforts with reality. Like, it might take more time and more effort than what you thought in order to achieve your goals. And unrealistic expectations usually just make people give up. And that's why they don't get results, because it's rarely ever an ability problem. Most people are totally capable of achieving their goals. They just give up too soon. The fourth step is to be accountable and to review your week. This is where you take ownership. So, did I hit my range targets for the actions I need in line with my goal, right? And this can be, obviously, I've been speaking here about like weight loss goals or body composition goals or building muscle goals, but you could also have business goals in here, like, what have I put out this week? What things have I done? I know mean that my business is going to be driving forward this week, even if I don't see the result at the end of the week, which is very unlikely, right? Usually there's a bit of a time lag, which is actually my fifth step, which is to understand the time lag, because results will lag behind your actions. So you put in the effort now and you get the results later. And what you tend to see is usually the result of what you have been doing for the last, say, like 30 days consistently is what you're seeing now. So if you're like, oh, great, my business is growing, it's probably not what you did yesterday. It's probably what you've been doing consistently for the last 30 days. If you're like, oh, great, I'm starting to see a change in my body and I'm seeing some muscles and I'm feeling fitter and healthier and like some of my health markers are improving and I'm losing weight. That wasn't what you did yesterday. That was probably what you did consistently for the last 30 days, right? This is one of the biggest concepts that you have to get your head around. If you expect immediate feedback, then you will become discouraged. The weight loss that you're seeing on the scales now isn't last week's effort. It's the fruition of the weeks and weeks of consistency beforehand. And then step 6 is to focus not so much on the outcome goal, but your identity. So the goal might be, I want to lose weight. But actually, a better goal, when you kind of delve into it a little bit and kind of to shift your mindset around it, and when you think about your why, this is normally much more accurate and much more motivating as well. Like the real goal might be to become someone who exercises consistently, eats well, prioritizes their health, lives their life to the fullest, has high energy most of the time, has the energy to actually do the things that they want to do and enjoy their life, and has a nice life balance between the things that are most important to them. That's the overarching goal. Now, within that, you might be like, and at the moment, I'm a bit overweight and I think I'd feel better, have more energy and be able to live my life to the fullest and be healthier if I lost a bit of weight. Okay, that puts it in a better context. It's actually much more motivating. And then you don't lose sight of what's actually important by focusing too much on, for example, just weight loss. The point is, I really want people to kind of take home from this is that you don't control your results directly, but you do control your behaviors, right? So if you're focusing on your actions, it's a much more positive and actionable and ownership-based way of achieving your goals. So each week, we judge the success of your week on the execution of the process, not the outcome, because you don't have control week to week over the outcome. But if you stick to your personalized range targets that are set to you based on your goals and based on your life constraints, then the results are inevitable. It's just time. And instead of thinking like, did I lose weight this week? You need to ask yourself, if every week looked like this, would I achieve the results that I want? And would I be living a life that I love? That's the question we ask in the Commit to 6 check-ins. Like, would you achieve the results that you want? And would you be living a life that you love if every week was like this week? And the point isn't for you to always be able to say yes. The point is to then question that and be like, because maybe some weeks you're like, yeah, I had a perfect week nutrition-wise, but would I be living the life I love? No, because I was really hungry. I missed out on a social event. Like, I think I'm overthinking food. I'm obsessing over the scales. It's like, okay, well then the approach needs to change, right? Like both of these things are important. We want you to be working towards your goals, also living a life that you love. Life is too short not to be doing that. And then a really kind of simple way to think about all of this, and I realize I've just spent 25 odd minutes talking about it, but people who focus people who focus on outcomes will end up quitting. People who focus on the process will win. They are the ones who will get results. So if you're ready to try something different, something that actually gets results that last, that's going to mean that we reduce all of the overwhelm, focus your efforts on where they're actually going to get you where you want to be without overthinking everything. You have this amazing sense of calm and focus and drive, and you actually get to enjoy your life while you're doing it. Then join the next Commit 6 intake. I will leave the link in the show notes, whether this is on Substack or on the podcast. You can also head to the website, which is esgfitness.co.uk/commit. There's also options there just to click a button and talk to me if you're not quite sure it's right for you. And I can honestly say that this process will change your life if you commit to it. We have thousands of testimonials to prove that. And then I wanted to leave you with an email that came into my inbox the other day because it's very Commit to 6 and fuck average vibes. And this is a James Clear quote. And it says, the modern world is optimized for convenience, not improvement. Oh my God, I can't even speak now. The default path is usually the more convenient path. And I get it. Who wants their days to be a pain in the neck? I like sitting in air-conditioned rooms and watching my favorite shows too. but the body and mind only grow when placed under stimulus. If you want improvement, you have to choose something different than convenience. It can be lovely to have a day where you do not push yourself, but it rarely works out well if you have a life where you do not push yourself. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about that is like that last line. It can be lovely to have a day where you don't push yourself, but it rarely works out well if you have a life where you don't push yourself. I think people mentally struggle with that concept. I mean, I certainly do as well, where you're like, what's the line between like kind of taking the pressure off and being kind to myself for a day and then like pushing myself? And I think that quite nicely conceptualizes it. Like every now and again, that's fine. But on average, you kind of want to be pushing yourself a bit. You want to be seeing what you can achieve. But that doesn't mean that every single day has to be that way. And actually the rest in between that is allows you what? Allows you what? God, very inarticulate today, sorry. Is what allows you. Sometimes I think my head works a lot faster than my speaking. But anyway, that's what allows you to then push harder on other days. So anyway, if you do have any questions about this concept or how to get results or how to avoid just feeling overwhelmed by all of the noise on social media, you know where to find me at ESG Fitness on Instagram. I will leave my WhatsApp in the show notes. And if you are ready to commit to something that will genuinely change your life, get signed up to Commit to 6. Our next intake starts in a week when this is going to be put out. And we have some incredible women in there and I can't wait for it. All right, have awesome days, everyone.